And this broke a lot of this trust that he had started to build with her. This really affected his overall progress with her when she was forced back into the basement for no action of her own.
Yeah, she got really scared. She didn't exactly know what to think of it because at that point she couldn't rationalize why he would have done that because she had followed all of her rules.
Right. And then when she was let back upstairs and more time had passed, I think she had been captured at this point for almost 5 months, perhaps a little longer. Um, he took the chains off of her ankle permanently and just let her start walking around the house freely without the control of chains, except for the one that was outside that she was to put on by herself. She never got the chance to do so, but she acknowledged that she would. How did that work over? Why wouldn't she escape at that point when he's removing the chains completely and leaving the house?
At that point, she no longer viewed what's going on as bad. So she kind of made excuses of this is what her life was like. This is what was to be expected. Nobody was coming for her. Nobody's gonna help her. So she might as well get used to what's happening. Because she knows she can't survive out there. This is all she has.
And when he goes back into town, the headlines, you really started to work with the Adelines again, and they never brought up her kidnapping, right? They only brought up that she had run
Yeah.
away or that she was, missing but not kidnapped. Why is
Mm-hmm.
that the case with her family?
Because her family is messed up. Um, so Alistair is all about publicity and media and how the family is presented, and if it comes across that he allowed his daughter to be taken, what would that do for business? So Ophelia's never been the perfect child in his eyes. Alice always has been. And all he ever cares about is Alice, and that Ophelia was just kind of a backup plan, for lack of a better word. If something happens to Alice, well, we got a second one. That's good. We're good. Um, so he then gets to realize that the police, the museum specifically, has noticed that she's gone and is starting to stir up some stuff. So he is forced to do something to keep his reputation afloat at that point.
And he took her into town for the first time in almost 6 months. He had taken her into town to interact with him. And this led to the introduction of Damien Sinclair, Luke's truest rival and enemy in the story so far. There was so much depth to this character and so much internal concepts with him. I just wasn't prepared for this guy. Tell us a little bit about Damien Sinclair and how he came to be.
I love him so much. Okay, so he's actually a character that I created when I was in college, and I never used him again. I wrote a short story with him in it. He was a detective, and I just never brought him back. And I was like, you know what? This is the perfect story to bring him back because now he can have fun when he never got to before. So he is a freelance detective. He did used to work for, I believe, the Helena Police Department, but he does not get along with people. He does not like people, so he quit. And he decided to go freelance uh, because of his peculiarities. He did a lot of work with murderers, serial killings, stuff like that. So he has a pretty predominant name. That's how Alistair found him. As an aside, people with a lot of money who can afford him trust him because he is kind of like a savant. He has OCD, um, and he is autistic. So he uses his autism, his savantism, you could even call it Asperger's at this point, to to his favor when he's going through like the cases and stuff like that. But he's very observant. He he's very blunt. He does not have any social skills. He's amazing.
Okay, so with we're back, and with Damian Sinclair described, I also noticed that you've added a massive amount of detail to all the NPCs that you've introduced to the game. Is that common for you to add this much detail to the NPCs?
Uh, yeah,
Because
yes,
we're not
maybe.
talking about like a little bit here. We're not talking about height, weight, appearance, and a general personality. We are talking about full on character backgrounds, full on character knowledge. So that's why I'm asking, how common is it for you to do this with an NPC?
I guess because I've started writing so many nanos, I'm used to having sub characters and supporting characters. Um, yet again, that the writing site that I was part of, where she originally came from, I spent a lot of time crafting her parents, who they are, because I felt that if the reader knows who Alistair is, why Alice is such a threat, and why Damien's able to see what he's able to see, then it's going to make a lot more sense why Alistair's spending all this money to find her now all of a sudden, why Alice is going to be such a big player in all of this, and why Damien is able to do the things that he's able to do instead of just like, oh, here's Damien, here's Alice, they're people.
Right. And then, we're months into this kidnapping now. She's fully stuck in the Stockholm syndrome. Her hold on reality has started to break, and marriage has become a real topic of point, and she's for it, sort of. What's the mental state of her accepting this marriage?
I think at this point she can't visually see her life without him. Like there's no escape. Like there is nothing beyond him at this point. So she has to kind of do it. There's no other way.
And she's kind of got the option. She gets a knife and she starts hearing voices like stab him, punish him, things like that. What's all that about? Is that an eternal voices or is that her dark man voice?
So some of them I believe are the dark man talking to her, and it's typically when she's in the house, um when she's alone, she starts to think and hear these things about how she should kill him, how she should hurt him, how she could do all these things, and why it would be good to do these things. The other side of her brain goes, no, 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 I can't do that. I have to not do that. Um, and those voices are starting to get more and more predominant. The longer she kind of exists, I guess.
Which ones? The ones to harm him or the ones to obey him?
To hurt him.
To hurt him. So those voices are becoming more dominant.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then to throw Damien off his scent because it really like bothered him that he had been captured, that he had been caught in this big kidnapping scheme. He came up with this idea of going camping, and she really freaked out about that. Why?
Well, she doesn't know how to camp. This is along the lines of the jogging. She doesn't like being hot. Camping's hot. So she's terrified to go camping. She literally thinks they're going camping, so she packs everything thinking they're going camping, and then it's like, no, we're not going camping. And she's like, wait,
Right.
what?
So during the time that they're packing things up, he did this test with her and handed her a gun. And she heard the voices again, but chose to ignore them. But this was a real chance for her to finally escape. She knew where the car was. She knew how to get there. She had the energy to get there. She had the gun. Why didn't she jump on this opportunity? I mean, even in the book that I was reading, the woman finally got a gun and jumped on the opportunity to escape her captor, but not Ophelia. Was this just to continue the story, or do you believe truly that she wouldn't have used it?
So there's a mixture of things. So every like kidnapping situation is different. So since Ophelia was put in such immense isolation, her brain is not exactly the same as it could be at this point in time. So she views Luke in a different light than say most kidnapped people would be, because he's conditioned her to be with him. So it's not just, oh, he kidnapped me, this is awful, help. It's, I can't hurt him because of this conditioned response I have toward him to begin with.
Right, and one of the things that he's done is stop her from thinking that this was a kidnapping and kind of turned it more into he saved her from all these poisonous snakes and all these people that were trying to hurt her and all these people that were trying to influence her and make her do things that she didn't want. And like I said, he had used examples of how her life could have been better if they didn't influence her. So I guess, how's that all working out?
Ophelia's having a hard time. she she's struggling. She's on the struggle bus. A lot of what she's feeling now is she's rationalizing everything that he does, and she's beginning to trust everything that he does, and no longer trust everybody else. So when she eventually gets back into situations with people that she does know, those interactions are going to be rather painful, probably to the other people as compared to her.